We did get some questions from listeners today,
Ah,
if you want to go through
yes,
some of them.
I
Some of
do.
them. Here's one I thought was interesting. I'm not even going to give the name of who gave them because it's Instagram names are too hard to figure out for me sometimes. How do you classify yourself as an athlete?
Oh god. Well, I suppose in, like, 4 days' time, I'll classify myself as a master. Ooh.
Yes.
The dark side. I'm coming. It's tough. That is a question of perception because personally, like, I've gone through a lot of different athletic phases, right? Like, there was a time pre-CrossFit where I was a very different type of athlete, where I was a dancer. There was a time within CrossFit where I think I was really fit and strong and considered myself a competitor and did a lot of competitions. There was a time where I was just my body was not mine and it's still partially not, right? I'm still nursing. So it's hard to do all the same things athletically that I did when I had more time, effort, energy, and my body to myself to dedicate to CrossFit. But then there's also this perspective that you need to give a question like that where I might not be at the top of the leaderboard in my gym every single day. But what about like relative to the world? Relative to
Right.
most average folks my age? I think they'd probably consider me pretty fit. So I think if I had to just take all of that into consideration if I had to classify myself as an athlete, I'd say like intermediate, moderately fit
Moderately fit.
CrossFitter. Does that does that hold up?
Yeah, I think it holds up. I always struggle with people are so specific about RX or scaled. I think
Oh,
intermediate
is that
is
what
where
that question means?
not necessarily, but I think very few people are willing to put themselves as intermediate, which is more in the middle. I think a lot of people are like they're either really hard on themselves in this sport and they say, "Oh, I'm terrible at it, so I'm scaled," or they're a shirts off ego person and they're like, "Oh, I'm RX. I'm all in all the time." You know?
Right. Yeah.
And
I I'm not either of those things for real. I think I'd probably say I'm like 85% of the time can RX things that are on the board, but all of us I think all of us struggle with like high skill stuff. All of us struggle with
right,
like insane giant heavy weights. All of us struggle with hero workouts. Like we all struggle with the same types of things. And even gym to gym, those standards vary. So it's
right.
difficult to use that, I feel like, as a benchmark. But I have no problem entering the gym and tackling the workout of the day in a way that is best for me,
Yeah, I get
for
that.
sure.
I've struggled recently with my place of where I am with as an athlete only because I'm training with people that are way fitter than me,
Mhm.
and so I'm losing perspective
Mm.
on how how I'm doing versus kind of my subset, age group, masters athletes, however you want to view it.
Mhm.
Um, and because I'm getting smoked by really fit people, but I'm still doing well, you know. So
Mhm.
I'll lose like we've been doing these hero wads every Saturday or every Friday, and they're really hard. And most of them are 30 to 50 minutes long, depending on your fitness and whether or not you're RXing them. And I kind of work out with the same group every week. And this one woman, Carissa, she's about the fittest 40-year-old mom I know. Like she's stupid fit. I'm convinced she could go to High Rocks and win right now.
Mm.
I keep trying to talk her into going and doing one because I'm positive she
Yeah.
would go in and make a splash. And she'll beat me in these hero wads by a full lap. They're 4 to 6 rounds usually. And she'll always beat me by at least a full round, in some cases 10, 15 minutes. And then I'll post my time and people in my age group will be like, wow, that was really fast. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like Chris had like gone home and changed and came back with coffee by the time I was done, you know? So I tend to lose perspective on how I'm doing. But the one thing I have classified myself as recently, or really like kind of in the last year, is someone who's just training like I quit focusing on scaled and RX and even intermediate. And like every day when I go in now, it's like I'm no longer racing. I'm just training. That's it.
Mhm.
And man, you talk about a stress reliever. When you're no longer trying to beat the person next to you every single time you walk in the door, it made a big difference for me. So
Yeah.
that was a long story to say I'm RX, but
Yeah.
it,
Fun fact.
that is
I think that's really interesting because I love what CrossFit does to us in the sense that it it pushes you to have a little bit of competitive fire within yourself, not necessarily to beat the person next to you, but it's a really lovely way of looking at it, saying like that person who's lapping me, I don't need
Right.
to beat them, but that sure as shit is motivation for me to keep going. You know what I mean? It's not like I
Yep.
need to beat them or I mean, sometimes it is nice to have that push. Sometimes when you're neck and neck with someone, the motivation you might need in that moment is like, I would like to finish first. But even if it's not, even if you've taken that specific type of pressure off of your plate, it is absolutely motivating to be like, well, they didn't stop. So maybe I shouldn't stop or they're moving fast.
Yep.
So I should keep going. Like that type of comparative motivation doesn't go away. And I think is what honestly, it helps me show up
Yeah.
because I
Well,
need some serious motivation to show up sometimes.
trust me, that's the argument for going to group classes is you work harder. Like I
Mhm.
trained at home today, which I did Laredo, and it was nowhere near my peak Laredo time. Now I was on assault runner, so that changed it quite a bit. But even if I subtracted the extra time it takes to do 400 meters on an assault runner, it still wasn't near. And the reason it wasn't is I'd get off that runner to walk over and I'd grab a sip of water, I'd make a little loop back over to where I was doing air squats, and I'm like lollygagging a little bit. And I'm still sweating my ass off. My heart rate's pretty high, but it's not the same
Mhm.
as when you're out there with your friends,
Yeah.
training partners.
Well, I think it's really interesting too. Like we always say that you don't want to be the fittest one in the room, right? Like you want someone to chase or you want someone to motivate you or you want someone to inspire you, whatever it is. Like we always say that. But I do think that there needs to be a little bit of balance in that
Mm.
like you need some wins too,
Right.
John. Like you can't just be working out with people every single day that lap you every on everything that you do. Like it's just that is a little bit not motivating in addition to losing that perspective. So, when you train by yourself in your house, in your basement, give yourself something that you know you're good at so that you can feel a win or something that you like to do or something that, I don't know, just makes you feel fit in a
Oh,
different way.
I almost always only do things I like to do when I'm home.
Perfect.
Like,
Perfect. That
trust me.
balance is important.
Yeah, the basement workouts, I mean, don't get me wrong, like I did one a few days ago. It was a full 60 minutes and I was smoked when it was done. But
Yeah.
every movement in that thing was curated, man. I knew I wasn't going to pick anything that I absolutely hated. And by the time it was done, I was like, oh man, I overestimated how much I like that movement because it sucks doing it that long.
Right, right.
Mm.
In air quotes.
Yeah, you kind of you learn from that experience. But
Yeah.
I
'Cause
like going to the affiliate because I get pushed to not only work harder around others, but they make me do things I don't like to do. And the coaches yell at me just like anybody else. Like they don't give a shit. They're like, "Your cleans
Mhm.
suck." I'm like, "I know they suck. Quit yelling at
I'm
me."
so sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm
I guess
embarrassing you.
that that balance is just really important, I feel like. And I
Yep.
I like feel like right now in my life, I'm very equal parts accepting this season of life for what it is and the type of fitness that I can do in the time that I have, in the motivation that I have, in the capabilities that I have in this physical body. I'm equal parts that and oh, this is a really good workout for me. I'm gonna fucking crush it and get to the very
Yeah.
top of the leaderboard, or at least I'm gonna beat Matt in this because he's
Hmm.
hard to beat. And every so often I can
Right.
get him, and when I do, I'm like, eh.
Well, and I like what you're doing where you're going out and you're doing a run club on the side and you're running a race. I think it's important for people to find other motivating factors besides just training. Like I love going to the gym. I love seeing my friends, but I don't care who you are. That shit gets old
Mhm,
over time if you're not
yeah,
working towards something. And I had a coach say that to me once. They're like, "What are you training for?" And I'm like, "Nothing. Why? Why would I train for anything?" They're like, "Why are you coming here?" Like they were dead serious. And I'm like, "I don't know. I want to be fit. I want to look good naked." They're like, "What are you
yeah.
training for?" Like, train for something. Anything like, and even if it's to look good naked, be convinced that's what it is but
Mhm.
train for something. I never lost that after that. And since then, I've always set goals for myself, usually, 60 to 90 days out. It's not always an event. It's not always a run or Wadapalooza or one of those things. Sometimes it is, hey, when August comes around, I want to be able to take my shirt off. Or what
Yeah.
I do want to like right now, it's I want to look good in photos in Madison. Like that's a goal. So I'm kinda nuancing my diet a little bit and making sure my workouts are structured around that properly, and I just think it's good for you to have short term, long term goals like that. Keep you
Yeah,
motivated.
fully agree.